Hello, everyone. This is Miss Silly with Miss Silly Lessons Learned. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully, you are watching. Today, I have an amazing friend of mine who I have known for close to 10 years. She was actually, one of, the person that I really enjoy working with in a nonprofit, era or nonprofit organization. So I'm going to give this moment to Nayada to introduce herself and tell us like about her education background first before we get into anything else. Nayada, go ahead, sweetie. Mhm.
Hi everyone, Niara here. So, my educational background is mostly in human resources, so human resource development specifically. I do have a double major in marketing for my undergrad. Then I went back to school for a master's degree for HR development, focusing on organizational development. So, some of my thought process here was I really love coaching individuals for their careers, but I also wanted to give myself some wiggle room so that I could do some big picture thinking and how I can place talent across an organization.
I love that. I think, and I still remember when you started working on your, master's. I can't believe you're done with it. Nayara, can you tell us, during your education career, I know you went to Ireland, right? So what was that? Was it during your master's or your bachelor's?
Yes. So this was during my master's. We had a few credit course where we had the opportunity to go to a more global HR conference. So we were in Dublin and we also went to Cork during this week long time period. It was so exciting because the University of Minnesota organized for HR leaders all over the world to come to this conference. And it it's just quite thrilling. You know, you're reading these textbooks, you see some of these names over and over, and then
Yeah.
to be able to meet some of your role models. While also, it was my first time really traveling abroad and
Mhm.
getting to see another corner of the world. So it was a very memorable experience.
Yeah, I love that you're able to, like I get excited when I meet people. Like I'll be reading the books, like, oh my God, that's you. What? You here in front of me,
Right.
you like kind of fangirl it, you're like,
Yes.
yes, I love that. Nayada, was there any obstacles you had to overcome during your educational, journey?
Yeah. When I was first planning my educational journey, I was hitting some hiccups at first. Just even when I was in high school trying to coordinate my scholarships. It took me a lot of work to figure out how to write differently. So while I was a strong writer and it was an interest of mine, it in Asian cultures, we tend to view things in a collectivistic way to talk about what we did as a team or what we did as a group, what we did as a school. So I really had to retrain my brain to be able to advocate for myself for those scholarships and navigate financial aid. I was the first one in my home to go to college. So I was really learning from others around me or taking a peek at those and clubs that I was joining at school to understand, how much were these individuals working? How many classes were they taking? What are their studying habits, right? Because I went in here with a blank slate, no expectations. Took a little while to feel settled and to feel grounded and be comfortable with the new scenery and new settings. But it was something that I was quite confident I wanted to do and attain that 4 year degree.
Right. Yeah, I don't know about you, but like when I was, my siblings and my parents wanted us to go to college, but they didn't know anything about FAFSA, scholarship. They couldn't help us at all. They just like, you're going to college. And then we're like, okay, I guess we're going to figure it out by ourselves. Was that the case for you?
Yeah, I definitely had to figure that out for myself. Luckily, there's an organization called College Possible now
Oh,
that came to
yes.
our school, and I took part of their program and did some practice ACT testing through them. And they were one of the first ones that were, training me to rethink how I wrote my papers for the scholarships to be competitive. It
Mhm.
was probably more work than they thought it would be for me because it was a lot of unlearning.
Yes.
But they were a huge tool in my success. So I'm glad they had a presence at our high school.
Yes, that's amazing. You mentioned your background, Yada. Do you mind telling us what is your ethnicity so that way other people know as well? You feel comfortable telling us that?
Oh, yeah. So I'm a mixed bag. For the most part, I'm Lao American and Italian American. I
Wow.
learned to have a yeah, I learned I have a pinch of Native American in there, and
Wow.
but that's more of an unexplored part of my background that I hope to learn a little more about in the future as well.
Right. I
Uh,
remember you told me recently you found some family members on Facebook and you were trying to communicate with them. How
yeah.
was that?
Oh my goodness, I have a cousin in Laos whom I've never met.
Yeah.
Um, we recently connected on Facebook, and I was on Google Translate trying to figure out what I wanted to say and copy and paste the Lao language text, or like copy hers and put it in Google Translate, and we were trying to navigate it. And eventually I said, well, I speak a little bit of Laotian. Um, so she gave me a video call, and it felt so surreal. This is actually just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm still quite energized from it, but she just had this very warm personality. And I know during this time of COVID, many people are,
Mhm.
a little bit virtualed out right now.
Right.
It's just another reminder how lucky we are to have these technologies, or who knows how long it might have been until I would have actually been able to meet her.
Yes, it's like, connecting, us to our, family and friends through space and time, literally, so you can be at your home and
Yeah.
then they could be in Laos and you can, try to talk to each other, the best that you can with your hands and facial expression, So, and then Nayada, I know you mentioned also in a couple of minutes ago about advocacy, and that's how you and I met is through advocacy because I know you are such a caring person, and throughout your career, your young life, actually, you have worked with several nonprofit. What is your one advice that you give people in working with the Lao community? Advice or foresight, what do you think?
And working with the Lao community.
Hmm. Like what is
So I
important to
have a
remember?
little
Mhm.
relationship.
Yes.
Relationship. There's a lot that we learn in school, especially around systems and how to organize projects and organize community work, even.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with the Lao community, in focus groups, I learned that 1 in 10 people that were attending my focus groups weren't able to read or write. And really, what people were comfortable with is having this person that's like reliable, being there in the room, and just having that trust that you're going to help raise their voice or help give them information in a simple and non judgmental way for people to
Right.
make decisions. So it took a lot of care and patience. I don't know that I've mastered it, but the unique part is just how relational it is compared to what we're used to at work in our day to day.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned voice. You are not the only person that mentioned voice. I mean, the two students I had interviewed yesterday, my former students, they also mentioned, they said that word again, voice, like the voice for the community. You have to understand them, to give them voice, but also it's important that us, being able to amplify the voice of the community and letting them also speak, and be also heard, among like the greater, population. Nayada, I know relationships, voice is all important to what you do with your job. I think they just recently just started a company, like an HR company, right? How important is that? Letting people, speak their, minds, or their opinions, and without, feel like you being attacked or building relationships with people when it comes to HR. Can you tell us about your company? and how you came around to that.
Oh my goodness. So the name of the company I formed is called HR Life. I wanted it to be something fun and energizing. Oftentimes, the expressions you're met with when you say I do HR are maybe like eye rolls or hearing of someone bad
Yes.
experience. Right. So many people don't know what's happening behind the scenes is that many HR individuals are mostly doing transactional related work to get everyone paid on time, to get their benefits entered, to help mediate so the good work, can continue.
Yeah.
In my organization, what I'm trying to do a little bit differently is because I'm not in that 9 to 5 role being bogged down by the transactional details,
Mhm.
organizations can come to me with a little more intention.
Oh,
So, saying, my HR director left, can someone help set up the next person for success? Or, we want to
wow.
focus on retention. How can we get everyone together in a room and talk about what's feasible that this company
Wow.
can do that will make our staff happy?
Mhm.
And while all organizations value this, the reality is that it's really difficult to do that in the 9 to 5 role just because HR hasn't quite revamped itself.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's much needed, Nayada. And you're right. When I think of HR, I'm not going to like mention names or district or anything at all, right? But not all of us had a positive, interaction with HR because you're right. We like, okay, what's my benefits? But if you HR, you should be able to tell me that, But tell me in a nice way instead of saying, don't you know like what your benefit is? That kind of attitude,
Like,
right? And
yeah.
I think
So you can Google it attitude.
right, right. And so I think would your company be able to do that? Kind of like, say, look, if I was HR for this company, and then maybe I do need some mentoring, right? And say, look, I don't know how I come
Yeah.
across, like people are complaining about
Right.
HR person. Can you do something, Yada, about this?
Yeah. So in HR, there is a big development pie. So training and facilitation, if you want to do a class or a session, individual career development, or like how do we make our organization function better? All of that falls into HR. And many people don't see that development side of things. So HR can be career coaching. It can be teaching a first-time manager. It can be teaching an executive or anyone really, what that those perceptions might be of people that work with them and help coach them if they would like to change any behaviors or just hone in on some different skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 I
So those are
yeah.
the fun areas of HR, I think.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Do you need an assistant or something? Because I would love to do that. Okay, now yeah, that brings to mind, what you just said is it actually goes, I think I feel like goes with, HR, line of work. How do you know when it's time to go? How do you know, right? Like when it's kind of like you have to tell the person, maybe it's time for you to go if you reach this blah blah blah, right? So how do you know when it's time to
uh,
go? Like when you when you have a client, we say, what, I think Nayara, maybe it's time for you to go. So what are those, circumstance or red flags or moments, where yeah, it's time to go.
yes. So that's always a really hard um, place to arrive at for many, myself included.
Right.
For me, I've always mentally thought through what's my career ladder? How can I grow? And it's always easier to accept like a promotional opportunity than resign from a position.
Right.
I think, yeah, promotional opportunities, stretch opportunities are one reason you might want to move forward and let
Mm-hmm.
go.
Yeah.
There have been times where I felt like I hit a bamboo ceiling and my voice wasn't heard anymore, and maybe
Right.
organizations were bringing in external consultants that cost 4 times the amount of, what I was being paid hourly to say the same things.
Yes.
Um, so that it's a little bit of kind of temperature gauging, but are people seeing your value? And if you feel the organization's not seeing your value and you're adjusting your communication style as much as you can to shed light in different ways on your ideas if nothing's working,
Yeah.
then you don't want that to damper your potential and your creativity.
Yes.
So then it's a good time to plan an exit strategy.
Yes, I love that. Those are so good. Nayara, like what you said, I think one of the things that you said too that's really good is that if they don't like if a organization, whether it's like nonprofit or private, right? If they don't see your
Right.
value, if you telling them literally the same thing that they just pay a consultant like $1,600 an hour to say what you just said, you know, and you're like, wait a minute, did I just say that? Like, okay, so I don't, so that's a good point, about that. If they don't see your value, and it's more than just seeing your value, it's like respecting, you as well. And
Right.
another one you said about communications, it could also, in terms of like communication breakdown, do you think it also could be a difference of philosophy, on how to do things. Like I could say, well, you didn't hear me what I'm saying, but then I come with like already pre-existing ideas and beliefs on how an organization or a business, should run. When that happens, when that communication, breakdown, what do you think is a solution to that? If we have different ideology, should we just like, okay, let's hammer through together? What do you think?
Yeah, people definitely try to do their best. I personally think the solution is for the organization to invest more in their systems, because while you might be used to doing your work in one way, I might be used to doing my work a different way. But if this organization defines for me, here's the process to share the ideas, here's how you go about getting champions for your work, here are different ways maybe we prioritize the work and the impact of the work. There are times where, we might have differing opinions on what's important based on the timeline, what resources we have. But is it clear why we're moving forward in the way that we are? Are we all focused on our mission? And that really helps overcome some of the obstacles, because really we're training our staff together on a a method that we're all agreeing upon. So there's buy-in in our process, because many organizations spend a lot of time behind the scenes rethinking through, like, what's our system? Why do we do this again?
Yes.
But then we keep revisiting these same questions. So if we're able to just really dig in up front and figure out what this agreed upon system is, I
Right.
think that's very helpful. Easier said than done,
Yeah,
but I think that'd be
definitely.
very
Yeah. But that's really good. And then it kind of reminds me of like, the importance of your company, really, Nayada, because then, let's just say if you are at a standstill or you're butting heads, you might need to go and get a third opinion. And so, both sides will be able to tell what it is that they're struggling with, right? And then you like you the person that comes in and go, okay, this is what's going on. You might be able to see a clearer picture, you know, right?
right.
Yeah.
And thinking through different mediums and different learning styles is something we don't talk enough about in meetings, because maybe you're a
Yes.
visual person and I need to do something until I have questions. So,
Yes.
are we really introducing to one another some of the self discovery that we've been learning?
Yes.
Um, Maybe there are different parts of the process where people have strengths in. Maybe you're great at coming up with the initial strategy,
Right.
and someone else is an executing person. So, like, how do we define those roles? And are we trusting one another enough in the process too?
Yes. I think trust, definitely. Thank you for saying that. Trust is a big part of every organization. you don't trust the people, and you also value them. I think that will come through, like our conversation earlier about how, how your friend, right? Let's go ahead and segue into that, the Airbnb. How your friend, can you tell that story about your friend? Is it Eric? How he saw your value, your potential, and that made a difference in your life.
Yes. So while I was in school, I had a friend that was taking an adult education class with me. And this individual had been an adjunct professor for quite a while. And right before he became tenured or was to be tenured, there had been some students that maybe didn't earn their grade. And though thousands of former students were petitioning for this adjunct professor to move forward, the newer dean didn't allow him to move forward in that process. And this individual overcomes a lot of adversity as a Black male in the United States. And he did some reflection, with himself that, there are often times where these adversities happen in the workplace. So it was very meaningful for him to take control of his life and his success. So he started becoming a small business owner and he did Airbnb. And now he has different Airbnbs that other people help um, come to him to help manage all over the United States. So it's grown quite a bit. And I've always thought about that because I'm a big systems person, I'm a huge relational person. And, how much do I want my success to be dependent on others? Some of us are very lucky and find these great employers to work for, and some of us maybe just want to branch out and do it on our own.
Right.
Life is a journey. It doesn't have to be either or. Maybe you work for yourself now, maybe tomorrow you don't. It's just
Yes.
worth a try, right? We're exploring. And so he gave me some exposure to the Airbnb world. And while I am starting this HR consulting business, I'm actually renting out an Airbnb out of my home. So we have a second floor that's converted into a duplex. It has its own separate entrance.
Mhm.
And that's been helping me to not only afford having a home while not having a 9 to 5,
Mhm.
but also my mother. I know many of us have values in our Asian culture to take care of our parents. So that also helps me finance some of, my mom's current living accommodations.
Yes.
It's a creative solution and I'm pretty proud of it. Me out of
Yes.
5 years ago probably wouldn't have thought about
Right. It's
it.
true. You know, I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of you. Nayada, I was gonna say, if you have like loud guests, don't forget to get the badak and the fish sauce, those little, condiments ready. You know what I mean? Because you know how every time, like, when I go to, like, Airbnb, right? They sometimes I leave, like, the soap and the little scrubber or whatever,
Yep.
the packet, right? Makasa, group. But yeah, but us being loud, be nice. We show up to an air, B&B, and like, oh, what? There's a padak, little fish sauce. What MSG going on here? You know. So just a thought. Okay, have that little packet ready.
Okay, you guys. So if you're Lao or you like some badak, you can book with
Yes,
me on spruceleafproperties.com. You can let me
yes.
know and I'll have you some badak.
Yes, that'd be awesome, right? That'd be like, wow, look, this is so special. We feel at home. I love that. Nayada, I know our time is like, at the end. Is there any way possible you could show your screen, to show like your consulting business and the air B&B? Let's try to see if we can show, the audience. If you could just share your screen.
Okay, let's see here.
Yeah.
I wonder if it might work well for me to paste it into the chat.
Yes. And then if it doesn't work, then I can always add, like, to the, add the links, Nayada, to the YouTube. let me see here. Let me see if I click on that, and then let me see here if I could just see. Will let me share my screen here. And like I said, if it does some work, then we'll do. Oh yeah, do you see my screen? Do you see it? It says human
Some
resources.
things look.
You see it?
Here it is. I see it now.
You see it, Daniela? I'm on your
There we
page,
go.
right?
Yes, I see. Yep,
Okay, okay, great. So you did this right here, right? Wow, I
I
love that.
did.
Take us through this real quick. Okay, so I love your little tagline here, lead authentically. That's with everything. Okay, and then how about this? So like go ahead and tell us a little bit here, like all this right here.
Yeah, so what I tried to do here is put it into buckets that professionals typically recognize when they think of HR.
Mhm,
So for management coaching, it could be helping managers establish themselves.
mhm.
There's some new learnings between doing like direct service and then having to manage your projects and what type of leader or presence you want to hold. So I can help with that.
Right.
Many teams aren't like a one size fits all, so I can do a consultation with individuals to see, what are the skills in your team right now? Are the duties spread out in a way where it's going to be the most impactful to you? Many people think, when I fill for this position, if the person leaves, I can just backfill it with the same role, but you actually don't need to. You can re examine what the talents are on your team and see what you really need to hire for at that
Love
time.
that. I love that. That's like the biggest
It's
mistake I think a company organization make, just like, a cookie cutter, oh, we just fill this one. Well, you might not need that, let's see who's who's on, who's in the organization that can do this. Uh-huh. Go ahead.
right, right.
How
And then
about this
also ways
change
to work with
management?
your existing
Mhm.
change management. So, what I have here is largely around HR systems and communications around those changes. But change management could mean different things. It could mean, oh, we're updating our procedures and our
Oh,
policies. Who can be the communications kind of face to this change? Or maybe we're having staff changes. So, I learned that if you really want individuals to understand something new, it really needs to be shared with them 10 times. So
wow.
when you're in the workplace, it's changing all of the time and it's changing quickly. It's so helpful to not stress out your employees by having someone that's managing that change for you and
Yes.
sending out all these communications in different mediums.
Mhm. I love that. The
And
10 times rule. Yes.
it's a lot. And, when you're in the thick of it, you might say, well, I did my due diligence. I sent something 4 times, but that's not even half that. So there's a lot of engagement that's involved with changes.
Yes.
Then, lastly, what I just have here are HR transitions. I didn't realize at the time how critical it would be right now when I made the page. But someone had referenced to me that right now we're going through this period that they're calling the Great Resignation. So many people are
Yes.
leaving their job for either more work life balance, maybe for environments that work better for them.
Right.
And I think it's a huge courtesy to have another consultant come in, fill in for a while, hold on to that to train the new hire that comes on because many people come in with this new enthusiasm to a new job and excitement and new ideas, but then they're burning out trying to piece together what's been happening well before they came on board.
Right.
So just preserve that energy.
Mhm. I love that. There's so much, it's so much, good information, but also good services that you giving, companies, you know. So thank you so much for sharing that, Nayara. How about the Air R&B? Is that should I go to a site?
Oh, yeah. So I have it in the chat here.
Okay, let me see here if I can get to it.
It's brucelaneproperties.com.
Say again, sweet. Spell it.
Spruce, S
This
P R U. Yep, Lane, Lane.
Lane.
Property. Yep,
Properties.
correct.
Is it this right here?
Or Spruce. No, it's Spruce Lane, Lane. Like you had
Oh,
it
okay.
auto
Spruce.
correct.
Oh,
Pulled
okay.
up
Spruce.
something similar.
Okay, Spruce Lane Properties. I don't know. It
Yeah.
was, or maybe like how about I just go to.
.com.
Yeah, behind that's
Yeah.
probably gonna make a difference. Yeah.
There you
Got it.
go.
Yep.
That's me.
Oh, this is you right here. Wow, that's
This is
so
me.
nice. So this is your property right here.
Yes.
Wow, so
So my
beautiful.
home. Thank you. My home had been converted to a duplex,
Mhm.
and what we did with the upstairs was we ended up putting it on Airbnb to see if this would be an interest for people because we're in walking distance to the Mayo Clinic.
Right. Because like this, I love that you put like the local eats because that's everywhere I go. I'm like, okay, where's the nearest food place near me, right? And then I want to walk off my food. So where's the activities? I love that you have this right here, and it looks very clean and it's easy to follow. I really like that. It's easy to manage, and you can see like look, contact, about us as well. I love this. So how do you feel about this, Nayada? This right here, what you did. Look at this beautiful place. So did you renovate this yourself?
We purchased it after like this kitchenette was added,
Mhm.
and then I did all the like decorating inside the unit.
Yes.
Yeah, so I didn't do the heavy lifting. I can't take all the credit.
Right. It looks so peaceful and like I said, very zen. I would definitely stay there and just relax.
Come
I
on.
love that.
All
y-
right.
Yeah, I love the color palette and what you use. So if I'm ever in the area, I'll be like, Nayada, I need to book. I love it. All right. So if you ever in Minnesota, right? Rochester.
Rochester, Minnesota. Yes.
Okay, and then if you ever in there, please, give Nayada a visit and support, small, Asian business here. I will put the link on the YouTube video. Nayada, anything else you want to say? Because our time is, coming up here. So anything else? Any advice for people who want to start a business or anything that you have?
Well, I would say follow your energy. Up until now, we've all been thinking through so much about what are the traditional ways of growth, what are the traditional things in your career to be proud of. But the world's been shaken up in the past couple years, and we don't have to follow those same pathways to feel good about the work that we do. So follow your energy, find your resources. And I really enjoyed this talk today. Thank you so much, Anasan, for bringing me on board.
Yes, Nayara, I love it. I love the way you ended. Instead of saying follow your heart, you said follow your energy. I'm all about that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about you. We have really good, connection and energy when we work with each other. That's extremely important to a happy life, really. So, with that being said, guys, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully, you learn a lot from this session. Make sure you subscribe or like or share if you want to, of course. And, until next time, take care of each other and take care of yourself. That's what matters in life, right? Bye.